Video game controllers. Those glorious plastic relics that evolved from one button and hope to a spaceship dashboard. Will and I dig into the evolution of these handheld marvels because nothing says bonding like arguing over whether or not the N64 controller was unique or designed by a confused squid. Buckle up, because one of us played video games with his feet.
Welcome to Pixelaged, where every memory is a save point.
This is the podcast where we look at how gaming used to feel, how it feels now, and what changed along the way. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will, and today we're talking about the wonderful, lovable, or hateable topic, depending on who you are, controllers. So, this is about all kinds of controllers from growing up to now, of course. So, we obviously start where we were younger, and Brian, since you were Gen X and I am Millennial, when I think of a controller, it is Nintendo is my first controller, but I'm assuming for you, it's Atari or something even before that?
Yeah, it is. It's Atari. Atari had the joystick, right? It had like the one button, and it also had the kind of rotating paddle. But there were also two other systems that I remember when I was younger. One was the Intellivision and one was the ColecoVision. And if memory serves me well, they were kind of hideous, to be honest. Like they had the little rotating thing, or they had a pad that you could move around, and they had a number pad.
Right.
Yeah, but those were the first ones I remember. Yeah.
I didn't play on those. I know I've played on Atari. I don't know where, because I don't recall owning one. But
okay,
I've played Atari, gone back and played it. But yeah, growing up, being born in 85, and when I was finally able to start playing games, the Nintendo was there. So I was familiar with the Nintendo controller, playing Super Mario, the first Final Fantasy, the first Metroid, all the games we've already gone and talked about.
Which are good and great games, so that's awesome. Yeah.
They were wonderful games. And, you know, thinking about arcades, the controllers were there, but they were built into the arcade cabinet.
Right.
And some of them had, like, Time Crisis and what have you. You could take the gun out and you could, point it at the screen and shoot, and other kind of controllers from that standpoint. But by and large, it was all built into the arcade cabinet itself.
Right. Yeah, whether it was a joystick, the buttons, or even, do you remember the roller balls for like Centipede and other games like Marble Madness? You could use the little roller ball.
Yeah, and Arkanoid. Fun. I think Arkanoid had that.
Yeah, good call. Yeah,
I love Arkanoid. Very challenging, hard game.
Yes.
I went to Arcade Legacy recently with Lindsay, and I said, "Oh, I love this game. I'm so good at it." And I started playing. I was like, "I can't beat the first stage." Okay.
Oh no. Age, what have you done to me?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think arcades for home consoles to solve for, okay, we don't want people buying these massive pieces of furniture and putting it in their house, right? It's going to be a lot more expensive, and they're going to have to, is this IKEA? We're building our own thing, you know what I mean? So
I have a lot of IKEA furniture, actually. Right? Yeah.
They had to come up with a solution, so they came up with the controller. And I mean, growing up, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation, I had them all. And what they were like when we were younger, I think they were just trying to continuously push boundaries. But I will say that, thinking back on it, the older controllers, while they were good, I think the biggest issue they had, and you will probably agree or disagree with me, is that the wire that came with them were much too short.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I felt like at least some of them anyway, not all, but some of them, especially the Atari, and I know that was before you, You were pretty close to the console. Yeah, you didn't get very
Yeah.
far. You actually had to bring the console down to the carpet, the
Mm-hmm.
floor, and then you had the controller cord, because if you had the console up by the TV or on top of it, you had the cord in your way. You weren't reaching it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you had essentially two options. You can either one leave the console by the TV, and
Mm-hmm.
then your just face is in front of the TV, and you're
Right.
going blind and getting a headache because you're so close to the dang TV the entire
Oh, yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Or to your point, you can try to get it on the carpet and drag the connection to the TV as far back as you can. So
Right.
then the controller can be far back and you can actually look at the dang TV screen while you're playing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And depending on how many people were playing, that also mattered, right? So you might have two people playing or four people playing, and so now you're all kind of like huddled next to each other with your controller. So yeah, yeah, it's very tight.
Yeah. I mean, and just there have been a lot of advancements from growing up to now, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, big time.
I just remember thinking of like N64.
Oh
I think
yeah,
the analog stick in the center would get stuck a lot. You know what I mean? Like it would
yeah.
just Mario Party, all the having to rotate the analog stick as fast as you can would just kind of, if not burn your palm, then at least mess up the controller.
But you break that thing really fast, and
Yeah.
I feel like the advancements as they began to change, as they began to evolve, it was fun a lot of
Hmm.
times to try things out, and 64 is a great example because your hand was in the middle now, right? And you had one hand in the middle with the joystick, and then you had the other hand on the other side. But you could do hands on both sides too, depending on the game and obviously what you were doing. So I think that innovative idea was pretty awesome. And I seem to recall too, Nintendo doing a lot of that even still, right? It's that same pattern then. I recall that pattern then is kind of the same way Nintendo does things now too, with Joy Cons and everything else, right? They try to do that, and I like that. I like the innovative piece too.
Right. And I remember, gosh, it let's take a step back. We're going way far ahead. I think I think Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, right? Were kind of just these controller bricks that you held, and they were slowly adding more buttons, right?
Yes.
And for more controls and more complicated mechanics and stuff like that. It
Yes.
wasn't really until like PlayStation had the DualShock edition. I remember when Resident
Yeah.
Evil 1 came out on PlayStation. It was this big thing, and it re-released with the DualShock edition because
Yes.
it had the analogs and everything.
Yeah.
But the analogs were cool, but I feel like
Mhm.
it wasn't until Dreamcast and N64
Oh, yeah, yeah.
where
Dreamcast.
where they started,
Yeah.
it was a controller, but also the Dreamcast, the memory card was inside, and you had like a Tamagotchi on the memory card screen, and Sonic the Hedgehog and everything like that.
Right.
And in Nintendo 64, you would buy a Rumble Pack
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
other accessories that you can plug into the controller. I feel
Yeah.
like the first couple generations of games consoles were
Mhm.
pretty kind of just more buttons, yay. And then we
Right.
came to the Dreamcast and N64 saga.
That's a great point. I agree. I remember the first time with a Super Nintendo controller with the turbo, where you could flip the switches all the way up. And if you wanted to rapid fire a button, you just flip the switch on. And it was mostly just buttons or button functionality. And then it began to evolve with the style, right? The change in the style and the shape. And I remember the Dreamcast being pretty much ahead of its time. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I think it really was. I think it had some really unique things that it came out with, but obviously, if you know the history there, they had a problem with people being able to copy the games directly to a CD. So, yeah.
It was, before they could check to see if it was a legal copy and all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff.
But a
And
great
just,
controller.
yeah,
Very cool.
it was
Very
a
cool
very
controller.
cool controller.
Yeah.
And I do feel like the Dreamcast was kind of ahead of its time in that it had all these great innovative ideas, and with the exception of PS2, because I think that was around the same time, it was one of those ones that allowed you to plug in the phone cable and you can connect to the internet and play
Oh,
games
right.
online.
That's right.
is Phantasy Star Online that I've mentioned multiple times. I'm not going to go into that more. Yeah, it was a very good system.
Mm-hmm.
And I did go back and show Rosemary recently, my daughter. I was like, hey, look, this is Sonic Adventure. And I remember it being one thing in my head, and then I'm playing it again on Steam, and I was like, this is not at all how I remember it. And the voice acting is so cheesy.
Like... And even it's funny because we talked about this in the PvP thing. But when I went back to try to play on those old controllers where it was just buttons and I was trying to do the Street Fighter moves, it hurt my thumbs. Like I got blisters. I'm like, how old am I where I can't even do this anymore, right? And yet, to be honest, I was glad of where they've come, right, and how they've changed. But man, going back, it's like that. You get those shocks of nostalgia. Like, I don't remember it being like this, and now that I've gone back and tried it, I'm good with where we are now with these new controllers too. Less blisters is good, is my point. So,
well, it's probably like a guitar, right? Like the more you play it, the less blisters you get and stuff like that. So,
agreed. Calluses.
Yeah. Exactly.
For calluses from PvP games and fighting games. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Hadouken and all that, you'd have to put it in, and that wears on your thumb after a while, man.
Quarter circle B, man. It's coming up. It's shooting the shuriken ball. Yeah, man.
I was all about Blanca and just mashing Y as much as fast as possible.
Okay.
And that was
you're just
easy.
doing the static charge the whole time.
Exactly. It's like, I'm doing something, and that's why I die.
That's right. That's awesome. Well, in the arcade, you mentioned the arcade, and even they, from a controller perspective, even they sometimes I felt I wasn't going to try all the things. I was going to find what I was comfortable with, and that's where I settled, which explains why I wasn't good at other games in the arcade like Tekken and things like that. Don't ask me to do combos with a joystick and 6 buttons, right? Not going to happen. So, yeah.
So you prefer the controller over the arcade button? Is that what you're saying?
It's a very it depends scenario. So I think the controller is more convenient for sure. But when you're playing a game that requires certain kinds of motion, I mentioned the ball earlier.
Right.
Those worked very well for those games, right? Whether it was Arkanoid or Marble Madness or whatever it may be.
Man, Marble Madness.
That game's hard too, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
I mean, try to play that on the Nintendo. It was worse. Like the ball at least allowed you to move pretty well. Where
it had a lot more accuracy.
This D-pad isn't going to cut it. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think it was situational, but I like the controller better. Yeah.
It's just funny because I know in New Jersey, I have friends that were there, and they maybe still do. BlazBlue is a fighting game. It's like an anime. You're playing an anime, but you're fighting.
Oh, okay. And stuff like that. I'm not familiar with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were legit in that they had essentially the arcade cabinet where it had the analog and the 6 buttons, and they would just put that on their lap, and that's how they would play. And I said, okay, number one, I'm dreadful at fighting games to begin with, and do not practice nor care to practice. And then you just sit down this massive controller on your lap. I am doomed. I have no chance here.
Not gonna happen. Like, don't ask me to excel in this at all, please.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me too. Nintendo had a controller that had a joystick and 6 buttons. I want to say it was like the advanced controller or something. Forgive me my memory, not remembering that as well. But I remember that, and even that was a little weird to put on your lap, right, and try to functionally play that.
Oh yes, I had that. It was a big rectangle thing.
Yeah, you remember that? Yeah,
correct.
It had
yes.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a great idea, but it didn't feel as natural as the Nintendo controller to play the Nintendo games.
I think it also, above the start and select, had a button where you can, to your point, activate turbo mode.
Yes, that's right.
And I don't know if it was the developers were, thinking ahead of gamers at this time or anything.
Maybe,
but I feel like the turbo button often hurt you. Because thinking of Mega Man, right? In Mega Man, you have the lemons, is what Game Grumps jokes about and says, "Oh yeah, lemons, shoot the lemons." you could only have so many lemons on screen.
That's
and
true.
If you had the turbo button and, you had to wait for all the lemons, as they say, to go off the
That's it.
screen.
Yeah.
And so it was punishing you to use the turbo button.
And you couldn't charge. You couldn't hold the button to charge up a charge shot. So the games where you would do charge shots, didn't work.
Correct.
Yeah.
Starting Mega Man 4. Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Look at this guy. Nice.
I like Mega Man. That's fun.
Mega Man's great. Good series. But those controllers with turbo did limit you. And they could cause you to not be able to play very well. In some other games, it was very simple. A lot of like bullet hell games, no problem.
Contra.
Keep that on the whole time. Yeah, I mean, just keep it on, run,
Yeah,
With Contra, you got to do the 30-man, code. Otherwise, you wouldn't
that's the only way
anyway.
you're beating it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't see a reason why you wouldn't want to continue shooting in Contra. So a turbo button in that game, that makes a lot of sense.
That's right. That's right.
But now for the next section, we get to what is it like now? And I think a lot of listeners are already very aware of modern controllers and everything like that. So
True.
We have the PS5 controller, which a lot of people swear by, love by.
I like
all
it.
the technology in there. And we have the Xbox Series X and Nintendo Switch Pro controllers. Of the modern controllers that we have right now, which one would you say is your favorite, your go-to?
Good question. I do like the feel of the PlayStation 5 controller. I do. I think that it gives me a easier reach to multiple buttons that I would use because everything's kind of condensed on the top section from where my fingers sit. However, the Switch Pro controller is really good. It is nice, but I only like the Switch Pro controller because it makes it convenient. For like, sometimes using the Joy-Cons doesn't feel very natural or convenient for me. And it's just, that's just the way it is with the way I play. So I do like the PS5 controller. And I can't speak to the Xbox situation since I've never had one. So
I don't have an Xbox either. I had an Xbox 360 forever ago.
Yeah.
But went to Micro Center forever ago and bought a Microsoft controller because it is native to Steam.
Yeah.
The best phrase, because if you connect the PS5 controller to Steam, it will work, but it will say the buttons on the PS5 controller are A, B, X, Y, like an Xbox controller. Yeah. And I learned very quickly playing Resident Evil 5 with my buddy Sean. We're streaming on Twitch and trying to do a podcast there as well. In Resident Evil 5, you have to do these quick time events. Yeah. And if you don't press the right button combination at the right time, you die and you have to do the entire event all over again. Oh, yeah. And when you look at the controller and the buttons don't match what's on the screen, it's a handicap. It's awful.
That's right. It's like you're asking me to memorize this. This is not helpful, right?
Right, correct.
It's not helpful. And I mean, you have to use like an overlay application. I've used one for the PS5. In order for me to play on a Windows machine, there is an app that you can use that actually helps you map the controller to that. In fact, let me bring it up right here. It's called DS4 Windows. So you can use it for like PlayStation 4 controller and stuff like that. So yeah, the Xbox is a natural fit for Windows machines, which makes sense.
This guy, our natural modder over here. Just how do I mod this so I can make it work? I
find ways to make things work. Just wait till we get to our inventory management episode and we'll go from there. But anyway, go on.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like the general consensus we're getting from our episodes and recording is you are, how do I tinker it to death? And I am just, give me the base version and face value. Like, I'm fine with it.
I remember reading it was a blog post and it had to do with the two different types of gamers. And there are the tinkers and then there are the true gamers. And I am definitely more of the tinker. So, yeah, I just can't help it.
I spent 10 hours modding the game and now I can finally play the game. Oh, all the mods crashed. Okay, 5 hours later, I can finally play. Oh,
it's getting better. This mods does a good job. It's great. And this is totally rabbit trail. I don't know where we got here, but it's probably because Will's making fun of me again, but that's okay. So the reality is that it is getting better, much like controllers have gotten better. Hey, see how I did there? That was pretty good, right?
Segue.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
segue.
So, and I think the change that's happened and what has changed has certainly helped to allow games be a lot more complex with different features and capabilities, different moves, things with different menus. But I don't know. There's a love that I have for the simplicity. You know, there's certain games where I just don't need to have 8 buttons. I just need 2. You know what I mean? I go back to the Nintendo time, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
So before we get into the why did it change section, I got to ask. Apparently, there's a big debate online, and of course there is. There's always is. But when it comes to controllers, do you prefer the analogs to be parallel or to be the ones up the left side's up higher and the bottom right one is lower, like the Xbox one?
Firstly, that's a real debate.
That is a real debate. Yes, people prefer. There are a lot of people that prefer the PlayStation controller because the analog sticks are parallel to one.
I think I do. I think I do like a parallel like that. I don't, but I think about the Nintendo Switch, and I'm trying to remember if they're parallel or not. I think so, but I think I do prefer parallel. It makes me feel more centered, right? Everything's the same on both sides. Yeah, I don't know. How about you then? Do you care?
I don't know that I super care one way or the other, but maybe
Right.
because they weren't, to your point, maybe because they weren't parallel
Yeah.
when Xbox came out. Maybe that was why I had a bigger learning curve.
Maybe.
Because, and I'm forgetting what the original Xbox controller looked like, but I believe it was in parallel.
Oh, all right.
Because the modern one that I just put away is not parallel. So.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can see that, ergonomically being a discussion, depending on how you play and what you play. But I think I would prefer parallel. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, why did it change? And I feel like we kind of already touched on it. I feel like controllers changed. One, more buttons, but that's obvious. I think the best change has been, originally it was battery powered, and now we can just plug them in and charge them. But the Bluetooth and the fact that they're wireless, we don't have to worry about putting the console on the floor, or putting it or sitting right next to the TV anymore.
Yes,
that is a blessing for sure.
Agreed. Modern technology with that scenario in gaming, that controller effect where I can move around the room, sit comfortably on the couch, not have to worry about the cord. It is great. And the charging was a big step too. Because it was batteries there for a little bit. I remember the Wii. I remember having to put batteries in that daggone controller, and it's okay. It's fine. They lasted a long time. It's good. But, you did have to even think about it from the sense of like how some of those, we'll call it off-brand controllers are too, right? They did not evolve as fast, but now they also are chargeable. So I am total agreement with you there, that it's made it a lot more convenient for gaming, especially on the console side, because I don't use them for my PC at all. Like I don't use a controller unless I'm playing an older game.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I just don't enjoy it very much. Keyboard and mouse, man, that's it.
It's just like playing Monster Hunter starting on the Wii U and 3DS, when I think that was Monster Hunter 3U.
Right.
Anyway, learning how to play Monster Hunter and playing Monster Hunter ever since, it was always on a controller. And then Monster Hunter World came out. It was on PC, and I'm sure there's simulators and stuff that I haven't touched. But anyway, when Monster Hunter World came out on Steam, they had the keyboard and mouse control functionality, and I said, I will never be able to learn. This is like trying to learn a foreign language. This is not natural whatsoever.
Really?
I plug it in a controller and I just play on controller.
Fair enough. That becomes like riding the bike. That is muscle memory right there. You just have that natural inclination to that game. And you are a fan of that series, so I can completely understand that. I don't know. It's just something different. And maybe it's the games I play. That's fair. I don't necessarily play a lot of games like Monster Hunter, but I do play games where you're third person, first person, and I just prefer the mouse quickness. I can move the screen very rapidly. So That to me, when I tried using a controller, and I've tried it before, it's just too slow. The analog's too slow to move the screen.
Well, when you mostly play gotcha games for crease rating, you don't really need a controller.
Man.
You just need to move the
Woo!
camera as quickly as possible.
Look at this guy. I tell you what, if you're listening, he doesn't let up on my gotcha addiction ever.
No, I
and
don't.
he likes
It's
to
fine.
bring up crease rating often. Hey, you play some of those games too, pal. So
I haven't in a while, although there are trailers for Honkai Star Rail that look kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah?
So I
All
will
right.
say.
Well, and Never to Severness. And those games, when you play them with the keyboard and mouse, I do, at least for me, I do find it nice to be able to move the screen quickly. Not so much Star Rail, I think, because you were turn-based, but, yeah.
I just think it's so interesting in that, like, you grew up with consoles and
did.
going to your arcade.
Mhm.
And I know you moved to EverQuest and you started playing on mouse and keyboard and all that. But
Yeah, right.
on Steam, you can buy games like, Dead Cells and
Mhm.
and Hollow Knight. And I know people play on mouse and keyboard. I'm not knocking them or anything. It's just I couldn't imagine not playing those on a controller.
Fair point. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just a me thing, but it's just I feel like I could be a lot more precise with a controller in those types of games than I would be mouse and keyboard. I'm sure I could learn, but
Sure. I think you're right. I think those games, if I were to buy maybe some of those older games or games that were console first kind of builds, I think I would be willing to try it. Yeah. Just to see, because I don't know if I would play something like Metroidvania type game as well on a keyboard and mouse. I think that would be a little more difficult. I'd be too used to the old Metroid and Castlevania, I'd say mechanics. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe old dog can't learn new tricks kind of thing for me. I don't know. I'll knock myself down. It's fine.
Man,
but
he just called himself old and not me. That's a first, folks. Remember this.
I mean, you look at me, there's gray hair everywhere. It's fine. It's people know.
We embrace who we are. It's all good. It's all good.
So we get to the final question, of course, in our podcast, which is how did this affect us as gamers? And I mean, I think back, so going way back when I got my first PC and tried learning how to play Freelancer, as I mentioned multiple times.
Right.
You got to tell me that you had a learning curve and it was confusing at first, coming from Super Nintendo to Nintendo, the mouse and keyboard, right?
It did. The transition I walked through, thankfully, wasn't as sudden as what you were talking about, because I went from consoles and then I moved to Heroes of Might and Magic, right, which was strategy, turn-based strategy game. So I was pointing and clicking most of the time. And then it was Might and Magic series. And so those games were really what I first dove into in PC. And then getting into EverQuest, it was a pretty big learning curve. And I think that's why I love the mouse so much, is because in that game, you had to always be able to move quickly around 360 to look around you. And you would not have been able to do that as well with a console controller or even something that would be adapted for that. It was much easier to whip around real fast. So the biggest challenge, I think, for me was, and this is really funny, when I first played online games like EverQuest and things like that, I did not use WASD. I used the arrow keys. Yeah, so my keyboard was way shifted left. I used I used those arrow keys and I used the mouse. So it was pretty funny. And sometimes I would literally just have my hands so close together, it was just how I played. So yeah, man.
I mean, I feel like I did that too, using the arrow keys. I don't remember which games, but I know I started there. But then you learn, I need the rest of this whole keyboard here. I need to type.
It changed.
I need to chat with other people.
I got to hit the space bar a lot easier than my other hand whipping over. Yes, totally.
I mean, it's the unspoken rule in MMOs that you jump to say hello, you jump to say I want to fight you, you jump for everything. It's just so
True.
You need access to the space bar.
That's right. Pre-built-in emotes, that's what you did. And it was a lot of jumping. It was a lot of jumping, yes.
Gosh, yeah. No, I mean, I had such a hard time figuring out mouse and keyboard, especially in a dog fighting, flying around simulator kind of thing.
Yeah.
The pointing and clicking was fine, but it did take me a minute. And then especially because in MMOs, there's just the entire keyboard takes something.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
especially in a game like Final Fantasy 14, there is a button combination for everything. If it's not just M for map, then you can do Control M to bring up the macros or something along
Right.
those lines.
Yeah.
And so just the amount of buttons on the keyboard versus a controller and just having to wrap your head around that is ridiculous. And
Yeah. And the macros in that game, tell me, were they more than just combinations? Because could you build your own macros too and assign them to buttons in 14? I know
you
you could do
couldn't
that with like apps for like WoW. You could do it with like other overlays.
I don't know about mods or other
Mm,
apps or anything to that point, but what you could do is you could create a macro and you could assign it its own button, color, what
nice.
have you.
Nice.
And so a lot of people, there is one streamer whose name is, I'm forgetting off the top of my head, I think it's Ash, but he
Okay.
is the main crafter streamer in Final Fantasy 14. So
Okay.
he will, every patch when there's new crafting gear and gathering gear, he'll give everyone the new macros that you want to use to get the best crafting score
Wow. That's
and
cool.
everything like that. And it's amazing and more complicated than you'd think it would be.
Yeah.
And yes, there are macros in Final Fantasy 14 for sure.
That's really cool. That is
Um,
cool.
but yeah, it was a learning curve coming from controllers, and I'm obviously much better at it now than I ever
Mm-hmm.
was. I mean, did you take in school in like a typing class at
Oh
all?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There was in elementary, we had some really old school computers and they had those games where you took the typing class where the little wizard would be at the middle of the screen and he would shoot his wand at the right letter if long as you clicked it when it highlighted at the right time, teaching
Mhm.
you how to type. And then later on there were obviously advanced typing classes and things like that. But what's funny then is that the mouse really wasn't much of a thing for me in that
Correct.
era. You know, Gen Xer, we didn't really use the mouse a whole lot till later. And it was Apple that really brought in the mouse. You know, it really was the one that brought that in. So we were using old IBM machines, Commodore 64s, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the typing class was the most grueling, boring class to ever go through out of any other class I've ever taken. But
Sure.
the benefit is ridiculously huge because I can, while I'm having this conversation with you, I could be
Mhm.
typing 90 words per minute plus,
That's good.
and sure, I'll make typos by not looking and I'll just go back and correct them, but I can just, hi Brian, how are you, while typing my essays, whatever. And
Yes.
it's very, very good. Whereas my wife talks about how she does the, I believe the phrase is hunt and peck, where she just looks at the keyboard and
Well,
just,
yeah. That's how I do it. All props to your wife. That you would blow me away in the typing. I did not retain a dang thing out of typing
what?
classes. Oh no, I type really well, but I type in some ridiculous format. Just like that. Where I hunt and peck in a way, but my hunting and pecking has become muscle memory now, as we were
Oh
talking about
no.
earlier. Oh, it looks like I'm having a like mental breakdown while I'm typing, but it gets done. So and every once in a while my brain has to catch up. You know, it's like, wait a minute, what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. Oh, it's not pretty. It's okay though. I'm okay with that. I've made it
Well,
this far.
you did make it this far.
You
Congratulations.
know, thanks. Yeah.
But you can learn to be more efficient. I
I
believe in you.
can. Well, speaking of efficiency, let me ask about this with controllers, specifically the mouse. So when I get a mouse, the one I have right here, love it. Great mouse. It has 3 buttons near the
Mm-hmm.
thumb. It has the 2 on the top. There is a middle one for adjusting speed and things like that, and then the scroller, which also can be pressed. I'm good with that. There are people that have these mice, and they've been built for MMOs,
Mm-hmm.
right? That have 12, 15, 20 buttons on the side.
Yes, correct.
I just, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for anybody who can use all of those buttons. I am not one of those people. Are you one of those people that does that? You are one of those people. Oh my goodness. Do you
For
use
those
them?
For those not watching the video, I just showed him my Razer MMO mouse with the 12 buttons on the
You
side.
do use them?
So
All
I
of them?
do use them because
Okay.
newsflash for the listeners, I'm a very short person. So going past the number 4 key on the keyboard is actually very challenging for
Wait, wait,
me.
wait. You're saying because you're short, your fingers are also not big enough
Yeah,
to
they're not.
reach?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm saying
That's
something
why we
bad
love
about me. It's
Will.
fine. I can do numbers 1 through 5
Okay.
relatively easy, but
Okay.
numbers 6 through 0, I
Hmm.
have to move my left hand off WASD to press those numbers.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't like doing that. So I can do 1 through 5 fine,
That's
but
good.
then I've used my MMO mouse like in 14.
Yeah.
Without this mouse, I can't play Final Fantasy 14.
Okay. You know what? That is the greatest use case for the purpose of those is if your hands are not big enough. I think that is so great. I think it's I mean seriously because when I would think about it, I was like people are just addicted to buttons, you know? They just love buttons on the why? But now you made a
It's
case
just a
for it.
comfort thing. Like I'm not
Yeah. Yeah.
these basketball players where their hand encompasses the entire basketball. You know what I mean? I don't do
That's
that.
fair.
I could do
That's
1 through
fair.
5 comfortably. And then
All
if I
right.
want to do 6 through 0, I have to move my hand off WASD. And that
Okay.
can kill you in
Yes.
MMOs.
Yes. You got about a
So
split second.
I don't do it.
Fair enough. Oh, all right. Well, on that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
And we're back, and time for gaming moment of the week. A little extra segment we like to do from time to time. Before I get to that, though, real quick, I do want to say our episode on controllers did kind of go a little off the rails, very high level, which is fun. It's fine, but I do feel like we could probably potentially do another episode and get
I
like
know.
very detailed about each controller and
Yeah. We
kind of
should
do over
rank
that.
them. We should do a
Oh,
ranking. That would be
yeah,
fun. Yeah,
we
that
could
would
do
I
that
would totally
too.
be up for that. Yeah.
Oh man, if we knew any like game store owners or something that had every controller too
No,
that we could
no.
see.
I've got a source. I'll bring
Oh,
them out.
oh,
I will. I'll bring them out. I totally. And I'll even bring out the t-shirt that says choose your weapon and it has like 6 controllers on it. So,
right.
no, I believe that you and I could do a really cool ranking video on those and see where we would place them. We give them S to, down to D tier. But the the thing about that conversation, what I loved is we actually covered a journey that we both had through the controllers, what I think is really cool. So,
Yep. Yep. So anyway, going back to the gaming moment of the week, and I thought it was really cool is that went to the park earlier this week with my daughter, which I typically do once or twice a week, and
such a good
she's
dad.
yeah, I'm trying to be a good dad,
It's
and
good.
we're at the park and she's playing with all these other kids and
Okay.
parents naturally conglomerate and start talking and laughing at their kids when they're being ridiculous and whatnot, and it's fine.
Sure.
And this one mom that was there was tattooed all over her arms, which was cool. And I
Yeah.
thought it was, but it was all symbols and I think bands potentially that I didn't fully recognize. And
Yeah.
then her daughter ran away and she turned a different angle and I saw a different tattoo that I hadn't seen before.
Okay.
And it was the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts.
Ooh,
And I
nice.
said, I should say something, right? I think I'm gonna say something. And I just said, I'm sorry. Is that the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts? And she turned around and looked like a kid on Christmas and just said, you're the first person in the wild to even know what this means.
Oh, wow.
And then we just talked about Kingdom Hearts for like 10,
That's
15
so
minutes.
cool.
And I think that is why video game tattoos are very, very important in today's world because a lot of people are like, video game tattoos, that's so childish. Why would you do that?
No.
But gamers, myself included, I'm not speaking for everybody, but gamers tend to be more socially awkward or shy or nervous to approach people they don't know.
It's
And
true.
the fact that this person had a tattoo of, hey, here's this thing I love.
Right.
I was like, oh, I know exactly what to talk to you about now.
Totally. Oh, yeah. I see it at Renfest all the time. There are tons of people that are walking around with gamer tattoos, and I love it. There's one, her name's Megan. She's got really awesome like Zelda and other tattoos, and she does the photography for one of the bands there. So very cool stuff. Yeah, that's a great
Would you ever
story,
get
man.
one? Are you ever going to get a tattoo, Brian, you think?
Would I ever get a tattoo?
Yeah.
See, I have none. I've thought about it. I used to draw tattoos for friends back in early college, late high school, early college, but I don't think I ever would. I don't know how I just don't know how I feel about permanent.
Yeah, I mean, that's
You
fair.
know, I know there's a laser and all that, but still I'm like, I don't know about that. So, although if I was to pick a game and maybe a symbol or an
Mhm.
icon or something from any game ever, that would be a tough choice. I could see myself putting a Skyrim tattoo somewhere.
Of
I
course you
could.
would.
Yeah, you know I would. I mean, I'm modding myself. Hello.
Are you gonna be like my one friend that had a tattoo of an arrow going up his leg and over the knee,
Oh,
and he took an arrow to the
took an
knee?
arrow to the knee tattoo?
Oh yeah.
Man, whoever that is, mad respect. That is fantastic. I used to be an adventurer until check out my leg.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome. I like that gamer moment. That was a good one, man. That's really cool. I mean, I think if we can make connections like that out in the wild, as you said,
Yeah, exactly.
it's what we want from all of this. The gaming community is the best. Only a little past that would probably be the Renfest community, but that's my personal opinion. So anyway,
You
I think
just
it's
like
awesome.
people riding horses and jousting after each other.
It's true. Melee combat's a thing too. It's cool.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I'm not like I'm not going to shy away from some good meat either. So hey,
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, but thanks for sharing that. I think that's awesome. And why don't you go ahead and wrap us up?
Yes. So thank you everyone for listening to us ramble about controllers and mice and keyboards and not really delve deep into it, but at least very high level. And we will probably revisit this again in a future
Agreed.
episode. But until then, don't forget to save.
Thank you so much, friends, for spending part of your day with us at Pixelaged. With so many incredible podcasts out there, it means a lot to both Will and I that you chose to listen, and we hope that our show earns a spot among your favorites. I want to give a special shout out to guitarist Ron Martin. He's an amazing friend and seriously talented musician whose work brings our intro and outros to life. You can explore more of his music at the links in our episode and podcast descriptions, as well as the links on our YouTube page. Thank you so much, and remember, every memory is a save point.